I just got my order in from Japan for the TurboGrafx-16 Mini. As everyone knows, Amazon of America is not shipping these. I don't think they're even receiving them, even if they could, because they're only taking essential items right now because of what's going on in the world. And meanwhile here, I am running on a generator right now because we got over a foot of snow, and it's continued to snow today. And we've lost power this morning, so I'm just doing the unboxing. I'm running on the generator. I'm trying to get this out just so you guys can see this for anyone that's maybe thinking about ordering from Japan or, you know, wondering what the unboxing of the TurboGrafx-16 Mini looks like, which they've probably seen a million of these. So I'm just going to go through this really quick, and then I'm going to try and show some game footage, and I'm going to also play it downstairs on our 51-inch Hitachi rear projection TV. It's one of those ones that has 3 little TVs in it and does convergence of the RGB. So it also has a HDMI connector, so it'll be interesting to see how good this looks on that TV compared to on the big screen Samsung LED. So I'm just showing comparisons here of the size. I brought my regular TurboGrafx out so everyone can see the direct comparison visually. I think these gamepads are pretty great, except you can see that the run and start buttons are a little, you know, lower, not much, but that's not really going to impact the play. The D-pad feels good, the buttons, the 1 and 2 buttons feel good, and the only thing I'd say is the sliders for Turbo. You can hear they're kind of higher pitched on the new one. It's because they're not as solid feeling, but I mean, it's turbo buttons. It's not really going to impact it. It's not something you're pushing all the time. And so here's the size comparison. I mean, this is a mini, but it's not too mini. I mean, you can see, what is it? Maybe 3/4 size. You can see that it's still very sizable. There's one of the CD cases. You can see that compared to both of the units, so you can get an idea, because I know sometimes with these cameras you get this kind of fisheye look. And here's one of the hue cards. Here's Bonk's Adventure, and you can see compared to the original, and it's not that much smaller. I mean, that's only like another centimeter, and they could have fit one in there, so it's scaled down just slightly. The next thing I'd say is this is a pretty genuine feeling product, but the only thing that you're not going to get, and I've been saving this is, what is this, like 30 years old now, so for anyone that likes peeling off those little clings that coat things, here's something special for all you folks, because I haven't done this, and here's 30 years in the making. So with the new Mini, you don't get the satisfaction of peeling off those little protective coating clings. I actually have one also on the back side of the original TurboGrafx. On the top, you can kind of see there. They did add the power switch in here, which brings over the little tab that locks it in, which is cute. Because I wish they would have sold like a mini fake hue card that you could put in there. That would have been really cool. And I mean, another thing to help with some of the size comparison is I'm going to pop the backs off. A lot of people have trouble popping these off. I don't know why. You reach right under there and they both pop off identically. It's amazing how it feels so similar. Also, what I'm going to do is I'll take these 2 backings, and you can see the small one fits right inside the large, and the large one easily goes over the mini, and kind of looks like a Mickey Mouse kind of thing here, but the mini won't even come close to fitting on the large. And finally, I want to take a look at the it's like a 8-pin DIN on the original, and it's a USB now, and the only thing I don't like about these cables, even though they're much longer, is that they're so thin. And also you would notice that there is the NEC logo on the original one, and you don't get that on the Mini. Okay, so taking a trip downstairs into my retro nook, and I'm getting my TV set up. This Hitachi, to make sure the convergence is good after it's been warmed up for about 20-30 minutes sometimes. It's worth doing this feature that they got called Magic Focus, and what that does is it takes the 3 picture tubes in there and makes them converge so that you don't get a lot of bleeding from colors. Okay, so now that that's set, let's take a look at some of the basics on here. At first, you got all the games that we can roll through, and I know a lot of people weren't very satisfied with these games, but fortunately a handful of these are very expensive games that I don't even have anymore, so this was the cheapest way to get it officially. So you'll see it's a good variety if you ask me. I mean, I know there's a lot of shooters on here, but I mean, it was well known for being a system that had shooters, and probably a good reason why it didn't do so well in America, because those were much easier to convert and people didn't want shooters all the time. I mean, they wanted like the role-playing games. So you can switch back and forth from the TurboGrafx-16 or the PC Engine, which you can see here. I've got the core graphics for the style right now. And, unfortunately, some of these games you won't be able to play. Some are duplicates, so you can play them on the TurboGrafx-16 side. But some of them are a little complicated to play. And, I mean, I have played a little bit and figured out some games. And what I do is I use Google Translate on my phone. And if I have trouble with the menus, just getting a game set up, I will use that. And you can get your way through it if you need. So here we're going to get into some of the settings, and I mean, everyone's probably seen these by now, but let's go over them again. You can language and user manual, that's pretty obvious, but you can do the standard 4x3, you can do the pixel perfect, you can do the stretch, or you can have it doing the Turbo Express, and I think most of the time I'm just going to stick with the standard here, because if I'm playing on this type of TV, I don't need things like scan lines turned on or anything. And the wallpapers are nice. I like this one, the red one. That's probably the most pleasing to me, instead of just even pure black. And you can also, when you're in the Japanese mode, switch it from the core graphics or the PC Engine graphics. And that's about all there is to the menus. Now I'm going to take a look at. This is captured on the right from my Elgato game capture device. So it looks very sharp. And this is capturing, as you can tell on the left, is right from the Hitachi TV downstairs. And as anyone knows, it's not actually easy always to capture gameplay. But I think I got it looking pretty good. Just because the video is always going to be out of sync, you'll see that line run through every once in a while. I don't have a device that can do, exact perfect frame matching, so you'll see that. Please don't be too annoyed by it. It's pretty standard, but you'll notice that, and it's probably just settings on the TVs, but you'll notice that the blues and the yellows seem a little bit off. It's almost like the game capture device, I don't know if it's capturing things more accurately or not, but everything's a little more yellowish, a little more brown, and off of the TV. And that's what it looked like on my TV upstairs too, the LED Samsung. And I also thought that it looked a lot better downstairs running on the Hitachi, which is, there's 3 tubes in there. They're CRTs. So it just naturally gives it a softer look, and it's pretty crisp, and I don't think I had the focus exactly perfect on it, so if you were to zoom in, it's going to look a little fuzzy, and almost to the point where later you'll see I've got Bonk's Adventure playing off my TurboGrafx through the composite inputs. And it's really hard to tell the difference when you're capturing it like this, but you'll be able to see in person that it is even crisper than that. I mean, you can look at this, and it looks pretty sharp on CRT. And I do have another CRT, but it only has component. It doesn't have HDMI. I mean, I was very fortunate to buy this TV when I did back in, I think it was probably 2005 when it came out. Maybe it was early 2006. And It's been a pretty great TV to have down there because it's got every plug-in that I need. I've got component on it, HDMI, composite, S-Video, and it's a 50-inch TV, so you can change the aspect ratio on it. You can do 4:3, you can do 4:3 zoom, you can do widescreen. So it's very flexible to play old games on. The only thing that you get a lot of on this TV is glare because of the filter they have on the front that helps do the magnification. It's very shiny, so I tried to black out as much as I could in the room by throwing some I've got some black drapes, and I had those stored away for a while. I took them out and wrapped them around some of the items I had in the room so you don't get so much, but you could see up in the top left corner I got a little bit of glare from there's a window in the room, and that doesn't produce much glare, but you also have the effect of I've got pictures hanging on the back wall and the TV reflecting off that. You get a little bit of glare. So here's a capture I did on a different day, and this capture you can see how I've got the brightness set a little too high, and you can see in the center of this TV, because of the way it magnifies, you get this kind of aura of light in the center, and that's not noticeable as much as it shows right here when you're actually playing, you know, directly. And you can see as soon as you have darker screens and not such a bright screen, you can see that it's it looks pretty good. So this was the capture off of my TurboGrafx Bonk adventure, and that was just going through composite. And now I'm going to switch over to the HDMI input of the TurboGrafx Mini, and you can see that it's definitely a little bit sharper, but not significantly. And that's part of the charm of using a CRT. It's kind of a great equalizer, you know. Even if you have a real high resolution input, you're still going to get that soft feel from it. And there's something about CRTs that just make games easier on the eyes for me. And I don't know if it's because I grew up with CRTs, because kids nowadays don't seem to be fazed by LEDs and low frame rates or low refresh rates, but I always prefer to play on a CRT, and what I mean by that really is playing retro games, old school games. It's so much easier on the eyes. And here's Bonk, or PC Engine, on the PC Engine through the TurboGrafx Mini, being filtered with the scan lines, which, as you can see, looks pretty horrible. It looks better through the capture on an LED TV, a large screen one. It looks mostly like garbage, so I can't imagine anyone wants to use this other than just thinking that they're getting the feeling of playing a game on a CRT, and it really doesn't capture that feel at all, because it's just so artificial. I mean, and anyone that's played on a CRT knows that this is not what it looks like. This is not how it feels. But don't get me wrong, it's nice that they include these features for people that enjoy them. So, you know, they included stuff that they didn't have to, and I think that's always nice. And here's another capture I did from the other day, and I've got some better quality ones coming up. This is Spriggan, whatever anyone calls it. And this is a real good I mean, there's lots of good shooters on here, and some of them are pretty valuable. But you can see how this one was a little too bright. You can see in the clouds there how they're little, you know, they're popping too much in the center. So I've adjusted that in future clips. But I wanted to show this so I could show everybody kind of what another zoom in looks like, so you can see that looks relatively good. I mean, it's just soft around the edges, but you can see every pixel. I mean, it's still pretty clean. And this isn't the highest resolution TV. I think it does 720 and then 720p, which is good because this is matching it, and it does 1080i. So this should be defaulting to 720p, which is what the output of the TurboGrafx Mini does. And I don't know, there's something, and I'll show it later, there's something about playing on a CRT, especially with shooters, and I don't know if it's the refresh rate compared to like an LED, but playing on a CRT, it was so much easier to see, you know, bullets and stuff coming at me, and especially when some of these have real small bullets and projectiles. But on the LED Samsung, which is a nice TV for most stuff, it just couldn't keep up, and it doesn't capture the look. Now, here's Alien Crush, and this is, as you can see, when I've turned on the right side, I've got Alien Crush with the scan lines on, it gets very dark, and that's exactly how it looks on the Samsung LED TV, which is I think it's a 60-inch. It looks very dark, and it actually looks much better in this capture than it does on the TV. Same with using the Turbo Express filter. This filter looks awesome through the capture, but it looks like garbage on a big screen TV. I mean, this, I really like how this looks through the capture device, but you can't play it that way because of the lag. So, I don't know, it's pretty much useless. I haven't tried it on a CRT because, you know, what's really the point? But, as you can see here, this is what just the raw capture is, and this is pixel perfect mode that I'm in right here, so everything's really square, and it looks really good. But again, on a big LED TV, that's not the way to play this. I have had much better luck on, I've got a ViewSonic monitor, it's a curved monitor. It looks fantastic on that. So I don't see myself actually playing this TurboGrafx Mini on anything larger than maybe, I don't know, a 40-inch LED TV to make sure it looks good. Anything larger than that, it just doesn't appear. Now, maybe some folks out there have a more expensive TV with a higher refresh rate or something, maybe, I don't know. But then, you know, you get it, you turn on the smoothing and stuff like that, and you get more lag, so it's not really worth it. Especially with shooters, you're not going to be able to handle a shooter at all. Okay, so for Ninja Spirit, I'm just going to let you watch it, and I'm just going to continue to zoom in so that everyone can see how the image looks zoomed in a lot. And just be aware that sitting at a distance of this TV, I'm probably about 8 feet away from it in the room we're in. So it looks incredibly sharp. It's more like what you see, what I'm showing you here from a distance. But I just want you to get the real feeling of what it is to zoom in and see what it looks like if you got up close. And again, I'm still just recording this with a simple iPhone, and it does its best to lock on the image, but again, it's not able to properly lock exactly on the exact distance of the screen. It's just estimating. So I just think that this is a good feel for how a CRT projection screen looks up close. Okay, so I've never played Starfarer, and this is a blast. I spent way too much time playing this game when I was supposed to be capturing footage just for a little bit. And I played through it probably 3 different times and just soaked in, a couple of hours. And I've always liked these. I do like shooters. I'm not great at them, but I really do like them. They're super fun. And the parody series like this and Proteus Da, those are fantastic. And what's great in this one, the Starfarer here, is you can be the PC Engine, and the power-ups are fantastic and hilarious, and the gameplay is so much fun, and it's not as difficult as others because you can really power up quick. But you can see you've got like the CDs coming out, you have the little controller swirling around you as a defense, and there's just so much fun, and the characters in it are colorful, and it's just a pure joy to play one like this. And you can see on the left again, it looks great on the TV, and don't forget, you don't see that line going up the screen when you're playing. It's just because of the way the camera has to catch it, because the frame rate's just ever so slightly out of sync. On the right, I've got, again, I turned on the scan lines just to see how it looks, just to see how it feels. And I mean, the whole thing is it's like, okay, yeah, I guess if you have your face right up against the picture tube, you're going to see scan lines, but that's not how it works. So, maybe this is designed to put the scan lines in, and you're supposed to play from a distance where you don't really notice them, so it kind of softens up the image a bit. But, as you can tell, everyone now has large screen TVs, and you just see them. They just stand out too much. And if you don't put them on, everything is really nice and blocky, which is very cool when you're looking at a still frame. But when you're actually playing the game, it's not so much fun. So again, this is another one where I'm going to prefer to play on a CRT or a smaller screen if I've got an LED or something like that, or a computer screen. Alright, so here we have Snatcher, the one that most people are upset about because Konami did not translate this to English, and we all assume they already have the translation available to do, but it still would have taken time and money to complete it. So maybe we'll find out someday that they hit it in here, maybe not. Maybe it's just what it is and they didn't take the time because it would have been very expensive to translate this. But I thought I could get away with it using Google Translate, because you can get the menus and stuff like that. But once you get to certain scenes, and then it just goes to them discussing things, yeah, that's when it all falls apart. Now, does this end up being one of those games that, becomes a cult hit, a cult classic because of the rarity of it? Is it as good? I don't know. I'd love to play through it, but I can't. There's no way. Maybe someone, when they figure out if they can hack into the TurboGrafx-16, someone will figure out how to patch this, and that'd be great. I'm not big on bootlegs or using ROMs and stuff you don't own, but something like this where, if there's an unofficial patch that's high quality, I'd consider putting it on there, because this is a game that I would want to play through. Who knows? Wouldn't it be fantastic if they allowed for like an update to it? They'd send out the ability to patch it, just like you can for the C64 Mini, where they give you the option to eventually put your own little ROMs on and stuff. That would be really exciting to see. So this is definitely one of the quirkiest games they put on here, and other than the fact that you need to do a little translating, which you can do by holding your phone up using Google Translate and translating some of those menus so you know what you're selecting, this seems like a really fun kind of, I don't know if it's a strategy game. It's Croquet, but it's kind of like a billiards. You aim, you have power, and there's a little bit of a 3D element. You can see it up there in the corner. You line things up, and obviously by accident I had chosen to use a multiplayer where you just have a ton of people playing and you can use the same controller. But I think I will try this again someday, and I'll probably play it for a good while, because what little bit I did, it was very fun trying to get through those gates and then getting to the next one. And then I can imagine playing against a computer, it would be very challenging. So this is one of those where using Google Translate on your phone is really going to help, and I think you could get some enjoyment out of this game if you gave it a little extra time. Okay, so here's Splatterhouse. If you want to talk about games that make it worth the value of getting this just for the system alone, I think Splatterhouse is usually like a $60 game. I could be off, it could have changed. I had this long ago, got rid of it, have not missed it. I don't know why, I was never impressed with it way back, and I'm still not impressed with it, but I'm not upset I have it on here because I don't own it anymore, so it's kind of nice. And it's gory, and even back in the day, I mean, it seemed a little gory, but it was nothing crazy to me. This is one of those games where I felt disappointed when I got it. Not as bad as Addams Family, but this was a little disappointing. It seemed a little weak in gameplay. Another one that I never picked up, never had it before, was New Adventure Island. And just between these two last games, I mean, if you pick these up alone, the system's worth it just for these two games. Having said that, there's a lot more on here, so is this worth it? Oh yeah, it's worth getting a TurboGrafx Mini or a PC Engine Mini. I never cared for Adventure Island games that much. I've always enjoyed the other Monster World games, and I don't know why. I think they're all based off of the same, someone throw a comment down there. Aren't these all based off of the same initial IP, and then they got separated by a couple of different publishers or something like that? But this is one I think I'd give a shot again, because this one reminds me of Monster Lair, which I love. The music in that is fantastic. I wish they would have included it on here. Another game I wish they would have included was Last Alert, because it's so cheesy, it's hilarious. But, what you get on here is pretty good. Now, here's alone. If you were to buy this system for any one game, and I know there's different people out there that like different types of games. Some like platform, action, RPGs, some like shooters. This game is... And it had been put out before on other systems. It had been on computers. It had been on like the Master System. But they combined the first two stories into this one CD with an epic introduction, epic music, super fast, fun gameplay. And evidently, there's a difference between this version and the PC Engine version. So I think I'd like to play through this again and get a good feel for where I need to go, and then play the PC Engine version, because they explain it that one's tougher than the other. One has a higher difficulty. So I don't know if that's the Japanese version or the American version, but I'd say it's probably the Japanese version, because I've played this on the PC too when they've re-released it, and it seemed a lot harder. So I'm very anxious to get back into this game. I'm not going to show you much on it because I don't want anything spoiled. This is just the basic intro. Play this game, buy this system. It's worth it just for this one game alone. Give it some time. Put an hour into it, maybe 2, and you'll start to get a good feel for it. Now, here's another game I've never played before in my life. Legend of Valkyrie. Or of the Valkyrie. I put a few minutes into this right away and not quite digging it, but that's one of those things where you got to give things a chance. You got to be. I'm just breezing through some of these. Things don't catch you right away, and that's part of the charm of some games. Is you could play a game 10, 15, 20 years later, you decide to play it again, and you're in a different state of mind, you got a different mood, and you start playing it, and you're like, whoa, I'm loving this right now. So that's another reason to have the PC Engine or the TurboGrafx Mini. And here's something I haven't talked about. You know, I didn't want to wait anymore. Like, I don't want to wait till December if it really comes out in December in America. I just don't. And when I heard other people were importing it, you know, I thought about it for about a week. And then I realized, you know what? It's just not coming out here for a while. I mean, maybe they'll pop it out next week. Who knows? But you set up an account on Amazon Japan. The trickiest part is mine wasn't translating properly, so I didn't know I had to put my name twice. So the second field is just putting your name in a second time. Once you set up an account, piece of cake. You order it, and it took 5 days for me to receive it. And I'm on the other side of the earth. We're in Maine, which I think is just about the exact opposite. And this thing took 3 days before it shipped, and then it arrived in 2 days flat. Now, granted, they've got a half a day ahead of us, so it was probably 2.5 days, but I could not believe how fast this shipped. I mean, when it finally shipped, it only took 2 days to get here. So this is what 2020 is looking like right now. Yeah, I found this interesting when this game started. I'm like, oh, it's the year 2020, and then, you know, bombs are going to be flying. So we'll see what happens. But, you know, another classic shooter, and you know, it's one of those ones where I'm not going to get into it right now. I just played a little bit, but it definitely looks fun and interesting. And I don't know why, as I've got older and my reflexes have slowed down substantially, I'm enjoying shooters more than ever. And I've got like this crazy collection between, you know, retro systems and buying things on Steam now. It's just... And here's Ghouls and Ghosts. If anyone ever wants to know how to keep track of which is which, Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts, it's the position of the ghosts. So Ghosts and Goblins is the first because Ghosts in the first spot. Ghouls and Ghosts because Ghosts in the second spot. That's the only way I can keep it straight. Even though I love this game so much, you think I'd never forget it because I've had like so many editions of it on like the Super Nintendo version, which adds the double jump, which is super cool. The Genesis version, which was really good, but this was always what they claimed the definitive arcade version was, and I couldn't get it because I didn't have a SuperGrafx or anything. Who did? But they put it out on here, and that's really exciting. And I've played it a little bit, and it's fantastic. You can see the capture, the video game capture direct on the right, and you can see what it looks like on my big screen TV on the left. And all I can tell you is that nice warm glow from a cathode ray tube just makes arcade games feel so much better. That little extra glow you get is just all the difference in the world sometimes. Now, I did not know Ninja Gaiden was on the PC Engine until, you know, several years ago. I never knew way back it was available. And I don't think people are very impressed with this version compared to the NES version even. And I think the biggest reason that I can agree with that is it's the way that they do the parallax scrolling in the background. Those buildings are so incredibly choppy. It draws your eyes right to them, and it's slightly nauseating. And there's I don't think there's any way to improve that. I'll have to play it on a CRT and see if that, you know, doesn't look as grotesque as it does just playing it right straight through on a HDMI LED TV. So here's a game I never heard of. I'm surprised. And maybe I've seen it before, maybe I haven't, maybe a long time ago and I just forgot. But this one, it's Cho Anaki, maybe that's how it's said, not sure. But this one is really crazy. I mean, the audio and the background music and stuff is just wacky. The characters are wacky, and I just love it. It's just so insane. You can choose two characters, the male or the female. And I don't know. It is just one of the more bizarre things I've seen. These creatures. I gotta find out what the story is on this, and I really think people would have a fun time with this shooter. But this is why. This is why the PC Engine was so popular. They had so many wacky games. We call them wacky, you know. I don't know. It's cool to me, but this was games in the culture of Japan, and that's why I liked the TurboGrafx when it came out. These were different types of games. These were not your standard, you know, American arcade games. They were weird. They were fun. They lost some in the translation, you know. When you look at JJ and Jeff, I mean, obviously it doesn't make any sense to us. I think it was Ken and Kato over there, and I've watched the playthrough on Game Center CX by Areno, and that explains it all. I mean, it's so interesting to find out the backstory of some of these games, and I don't always understand why they need to be converted, the stories, or Americanized, but they do it, and it'd be better if they just had a pamphlet or something in the manual that explained what they were based off of. And here's another nauseating bit of imagery if you're playing a game on an LED TV, because the capture doesn't make it as nauseous looking, and definitely it doesn't seem as nauseating when I have that flickering on a CRT screen. But when it's on an LED, those green faces that are flashing, they are nauseating. It needs a warning, an epilepsy warning, before you play that, because it is so strikingly nauseating and strobe light-like. But no matter, this game is really cool looking. I'll be playing this some more, and you know, I know this doesn't cover everything. Hopefully it's a little different than other people's, and I just hope everyone enjoyed the video. It was a nightmare to put together. I've been out of power for days. Again, we got the wind blowing. They say we could be out of power again. I don't know what's going on. Is it springtime? Who knows? It's more like crazy time here up in the Northeast. So we're just going to sit tight, hunker down, you know, fill up the gas tanks and try and get through it. And in between, I'm going to play some TurboGrafx and some PC Engine games, and hopefully try and stay sane. And I mean, the best I can do is try. No guarantees there. So hopefully you guys are doing as well, if not better than I am. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.